Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we bring you part 2 of Marvel vs. DC, the top 5. Now, obviously the goal was to bring this out in one video. We had a plan, but unfortunately we are nerds. We will get talking about this subject. I told you, and we say every video we do discussions. We can talk about it for hours and hours and hours. We do love the content, and we do know a lot about it. We hope you find these videos educational for you to expand out past maybe the MCU and the DCEU.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, Cal. Exactly what I was thinking. No, yeah. The last video we did specifically on the DC top 5 that we had for each, included some that I'm sure that you guys knew and some that you didn't. My list on the Marvel side for this one, I picked ones. There's like 1, 2 maybe that I knew. The others, I'm just like, what? I had to kind of read up on them, quite honestly, to kind of pick the ones that I would want to see on the screen, right? Like, because we're talking about which ones don't have their own movie or a major part in a movie already with Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. So now I saw your list. There's going to be an exception or two here or there, or maybe you've seen them in a movie, but like Mantis said, they're not the focal point of the movie, or it was just so god awful that we just want to forget, right? We just don't even want to act like it. So, Mantis, why don't we start with you? And this isn't an order of number 1. This is the number 1 I want to see, but just give one off your list.
Yeah, so and again, my kind of like the last one, this isn't the top one. This is just the first one that I found and was like, that sounds cool. It's like, so I picked Nova, and I'm not sure if many people know who Nova
Corps
is. Yes, part of the Nova Corps. Just kind of a little, kind of a backstory of. I won't go too long. I say too long, but we'll just to get everyone kind of up to speed on who Nova is. Randomly chosen to become a member of the Nova Corps until the Annihilation Wave destroyed all of them, leaving him imbued with their combined power. And he's got like a little supercomputer, intelligent world mind computer that he uses. A couple of main big baddies. But kind of the main storyline there, Sphinx, the bad guy, kidnapped Nova and several others to Xandar. And this is where kind of the scroll kind of comes in with the I think it was, what DC show was it? The scroll, and I think one of the latest movies involved them. I mean, I was in Avengers,
You said
or
DC.
Captain Marvel. I mean, did I say DC? I meant Marvel. Sorry.
DC. I'm gonna leave that in, guys. I'm not cutting that out just because he fucked up.
Yeah. It was. I think. I mean, it was Captain Marvel, right? The
Skrulls did make their
fucking movie. Yeah,
I get it. I get it. Yes, I understand the need to do that, but yes, it was Captain Marvel that we saw the Skrulls.
Yeah, so Xandar was threatened by the Skrulls, who we've introduced in that movie, and Nova, fellow heroes, pledged their aid to fight them off. They agreed. After that was done, he basically decided to give his powers up and just to help rebuild the defenses of Xandar. I guess maybe it's like a battery is how that works. Fuck, I don't know how fucking comic book powers work on that end. But apparently he plugged into their fucking towers and charged them back up. And there's, through the storyline, it is a bunch of like, he loses his powers, he gains his powers, he loses them again. But again, I guess the main reason I wanted to bring Nova into it was because he is like a couple of other characters in our list that I saw, are heavily involved in the Skrull invasion of Earth, right? Which is kind of forefront into this third phase of the Marvel universe. So that's kind of why I picked him.
So now, interesting thing about that is you kind of set it up a little bit. It differs from the comics, but you set it up with the fact that in Avengers Infinity War, when Thanos is talking and actually Thor is explaining to the Guardians of the Galaxy that Thanos already basically annihilated Xandar when he got the Power Stone, right?
Thanos already has the Power Stone because he stole it last week when he decimated Xandar.
So obviously Thanos doesn't wipe out entire worlds. He takes out half, right? Well, the Nova Corps we have seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy, There was
Yep.
again, it's not exactly like the comics, but it was a perfect setup, right? You could just use that and spin off a relatively similar idea where
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's one of the only Nova Corps members that actually survived what Thanos did. Because again, he's going to
Yeah.
attack the forces, but then he wipes out half the normal population. So he would have decimated their force to get the Power Stone. Perfect setup.
Yeah, and yep, and then it kind of goes into the Nova Corps and Super Scroll, Big Baddie, and kind of ends with I think later on eventually there's something to do with Steve Rogers asking him to become part of the Secret Avengers. So um, there's lots of ways they could take the character in a new movie, but again, I kind of really like you were talking about linking to that. It's so weird. Like a lot of the characters and heroes and villains that we're going to talk about today seem to be heavily involved with Guardians of the Galaxy and not Earth based, right? Like it's out there. It's
So if you've seen our Marvel versus DC, the inconsistencies, if you haven't, go watch it. It's good stuff.
Mm,
Mantis said similar, and for whatever reason, the Guardians of the Galaxy seem to be centered, and most of it is because they're the
they
first group to
do.
go out into space, right? They're the ones that are bringing all these other elements. Everything, all the other movies, we've really, yeah, you saw Asgard, but we've been really tied to Earth or Asgard. Whereas the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of went all over the place and let us know that there was a universe beyond the nine
Yeah.
realms, so to
Yeah.
speak. So yeah, I feel like that's why they're so heavily tied into a lot, is because yes, they do have that universal connection of where all they've been. So
So who's one of them on your list?
so
Because
now again, not my first choice, but just what came up on the list first when I thought about. Now, to be fair, this I don't even know how to word this, but this entity, if you want to call it that, has made an appearance in the movies before. So if anybody is unfortunate enough to remember the original Fantastic Four movies that had two movies, Galactus did come into those movies. And the only reason why he's on this list, because one, we said we're trying to pick ones that have not had a significant presence. And two, I don't consider a fucking cloud trying to devour Earth Galactus. Right?
I don't. Yeah, I don't either. That threw me because I mean, again, and like these all intertwine, right? I mean, it's going to intertwine. Galactus is involved in a couple of other situations of the characters we have, including the Silver Surfer. But it's like when I saw that movie, you're just bringing back PTSD basically, and I'm like, this is like. I don't want to call it parallax, but it's like it kind of reminds me of the same like bullshit. Like this is the character this is it. Like this is the bad guy. Like
He's a
it's the
cloud?
tornado. Yeah, it's the tornado at the end of the fucking Superman game. It's like what? What is happening?
So now here's the thing. I get it because obviously Galactus is in a humanoid form and he's larger than planets because he devours planets, right? And for those of you, I will say spoiler alert on this one. I'm going to give you a pass. If you haven't seen the Eternals, when they bring in the Celestials, obviously the Celestials are bigger than planets. Now they can't augment their size, but their standard size. I mean, these guys are creating universes, right?
Yeah.
At the end of Eternals, we see Erisham come to Earth, and he's bigger than Earth, but he looks badass. Okay, that is what led me to believe and have hope that we could bring in a Galactus. However, that movie was not well received by MCU fans because we are now stretching into the beyond, right? Like we got planet-sized people. It's a little much for people to take, right? So I worry that they would be cautious to do a Galactus because while the core fan base is like, that looked awesome. What you did with Airship looked amazing versus a cloud. Give that to me, but Galactus, right? Because I would fucking love it. I'd be in front row of that damn movie. I don't care about the neck pain, right?
But again, it brings to the question, and we may discuss on our other one, like this makes most of the heroes insignificant at this point.
We're gonna hold off because we do have. So I'll go ahead and just allude to it because the next video that we do have coming up are are superheroes becoming too OP for even the big or small screen, right? So we're going to get into that, but that's an entire another topic that we'll talk for 2 hours on it if we get on a tangents on it, because it is.
Yeah.
So we're going to skip that. Now, I know you had Galactus on your list as well, too.
I did. So
right?
I'm going to, I'll
we can
skip that.
However, the next one on your list, I believe, is also on mine. So we're gonna knock out the same thing. So you go ahead and go, and then
So the next hero / villain / being, I guess, for the list that I had picked and you, some people call Beyonder, the Beyonder, is a very interesting multiverse type situation you got going on, right? Again, for those that don't know, Beyonder is basically, and I don't know if they actually give him a name other than Beyonder, but he's a being of a race called the Beyonders, which is kind of redundant and a lack of fucking artistic creation, quite honestly.
Right? It gets confusing.
Yeah.
That's just lazy writing.
Yeah. Anyway, other Beyonders, I guess they don't have names. They're just all called Beyonders. Other Beyonders created him his own universe, right? And while he was growing up and figuring out what he could do and all the power stuff, apparently, their other Beyonders orchestrated an accident from Molecule Man, which I don't know who Molecule Man is. Didn't look him up. Either way, a hole was poked from his little universe they made for him into the Marvel universe, right? And so, of course, he's like, "What's going on over here?" He's peeking through, checking things out. And keep in mind, this is like a being that has powers that can alter reality, create worlds, destroy worlds, type of things. But again, kind of the interesting thing I thought would be cool for this, because it ties into what the MCU is doing in the third phase with the Secret Wars, is Beyonder is a big part of the Secret Wars. He undertook this experiment that he took various superheroes and villains from Earth and put them in this arena type setting, and was just like, let's click the bell, ding ding, and see what happens, right? And again, it involves Hulk, Spider-Man, and on the villain side, you have Doctor Doom, Lizard, again, Molecule Man comes in on there, Ultron, Kang, which is, I don't, if they use the same Kang from the what movie was if they use this, that's just going to be horrible. But Galactus is in there as well. So in this battle world, it's going to be so cool. It's something that they could definitely do, and I don't know how they would show him again, because in the comics he's this being, right? But he does look like a man. But I don't know. Why would he be modeled after a man? I just as a heightened essence being that can create its own universe, travel to different universes. I feel like it reminds me of Ghostbusters when he's like, choose the Destructor, and it's like, who
did you want him to be
like?
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? Is that your
right?
Choose the form of the Destructor.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That'd be
cool.
Like
what? I mean, I wouldn't hate it. But anyway, that's kind of my thought process behind doing a Beyonder tie-in to the Secret Wars section of the third phase. So,
okay, so as I said, I have Beyonder on my list too, and the reason why is, and I'm gonna nerd it out a little bit more. Mantis is trying to be polite; he's trying not to go too nerdy to make it palatable for those who don't know the comics and things like this.
Like me.
I'm gonna be a little nerdier on that. So, the race of the Beyonders was created by the Celestials, right? They have their own universe outside the multiverse. The Beyonder race exists outside the multiverse. The Beyonders themselves created another separate universe to raise their young. and that's where the Beyonder is. Okay, so when Molecule Man is created in the comics, he is actually his whole purpose is he literally has Molecule Man. He can detonate and basically wipe out a universe. So the Beyonders sent a version of him to every single universe in the multiverse with the goal of detonating and destroying the multiverse because again, they exist outside the multiverse.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
In the process of that, the one Beyonder or the one Molecule Man that was in the Beyonders separate universe to raise their young, like what Mantis said, he poked a hole through. Then the Beyonder got to start observing Earth. Now, again, they're all raised as young, so the Beyonder is still
Right.
in childlike in mind. So it was actually Doctor Doom that starts destroying Beyonders in different universes to limit the destruction that when these guys go off is basically time bombs. It doesn't destroy
affect
the
them.
entire multiverse.
Yeah.
So very interesting storyline. Probably one of the biggest things for me because I've mentioned him a lot of times. I'm not like fanboying over him, man crushing on him. But the Living Tribunal as being one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe. The race of the Beyonders are the only people to have ever killed the Living Tribunal. He actually was killed by the Beyonders. It took a lot of them. It wasn't just the Beyonders.
And kind of segue into that because I think this one is on your list.
It is on my list. So. It is on my list. So, because I love the Living Tribunal, I love the fact that we're able to see parts of him. Now, we've only been privy to seeing him in statue form. And if you know anything about the Living Tribunal, he has 3 faces that you can see. Okay? So he exists as, again, he is basically the balance to the one above all has charged him to balance the universes out. No one universe could have too much power, all of this kind of stuff. Again, I'd said about the Infinity Stones. I'm not going to get started on that rant because it pisses me off.
We already did it.
We already did it. Go watch the Inconsistencies episode. I bitch about that plenty. But he has 3 faces. It's equity, vengeance, and necessity. Okay? That's what he judges universes on because he has wiped out entire universes before. Because when we talk about the Beyonders and what Mantis said, we're talking about characters that can wipe out an entire universe with their power, right? We're way up in the scope of power. So,
and I may be off base here, but how does this tie into the Loki series, or does it at all?
So the reason why I say it tied into the Loki series is because they had all those Infinity Stones in one location. And the Living Tribunal would not allow that. Even if it's outside of time and space, he wouldn't allow that.
So,
right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So, in the 7th, and this is going way into the weeds here, so I apologize. But basically, in the 7th cosmos, what we were most currently in the Marvel universes, basically the Living Tribunal, when we talk about equity, necessity, and vengeance, is equity was basically represented by Galactus. Eternity represented necessity, who we saw in Thor: Love and Thunder, and death represented vengeance, right? And another thing we touched on, I think, briefly with the Infinity Stones, most people don't realize that Death, Lady Death, is in the comics when Thanos is gathering the Infinity Stones to wipe out half of existence. He is doing that to impress Lady Death. Right, she thinks the multiverse has become the universe has become too populated with people. So he is trying to get those Infinity Stones to impress her. So different take than they went, but we got to see Eternity at least, and hopefully we'll get to see Galactus. So maybe we'll see Lady Death, not to be confused with the goddess of death, Hela. We're talking Lady Death. We're talking, infinitely powerful here. So, I'm excited to see the Living Tribunal start to take a part in this universe because we've seen him twice.
That's a big, and that's a big piece, right? Like all of a sudden, because you like kind of I don't want to keep saying check out the next video, but when we go to discuss these things getting more powerful, like you're starting to get into God realms here, right? Like this is on next level shit that little fucking Black Widow doesn't give 2 fucks about. Right, like
she's gone.
It's like, doesn't matter, right? Like this shit in the grand scheme of cosmos, like it doesn't really the what is it? I forget what they say in the jungle or whatever. The lion doesn't worry itself with the thoughts of the sheep or of the I forget what it is. It's like something like, or the predator
The
doesn't worry
gazelle. The
about
lion
what
doesn't worry about
yeah,
the gazelle. Yeah, because I
yeah,
mean that's what they
yeah.
eat,
It's
right?
like
Most.
yeah, it's like they're peasants. Doesn't what they do doesn't matter, right? Like this is where we're getting into like crazy god power tier shit. So yeah, I agree. I mean they've kind of hinted at it here and there, but they've never gone full in
No,
on anything like that.
like I said, we've seen the Phoenix Force. There's so in the entire multiverse, there only exists one Phoenix Force. The
Yeah.
Phoenix Force is like the living tribunal. The Phoenix Force, he's omnipresent, right? So, when we think about like the one above all and God that are, omnipresent, all this, like he will exist across multiple universes in the multiverse, but it's still just the one person. He can just be in multiple universes at the same time. That's omnipresent, right? So
Hmm.
there is only one living tribunal. There's only one Phoenix Force. There's only one of these. Now we're moving into, again, we're talking the most powerful forces in the multiverse in all of Marvel. I'm excited. I would
Yeah.
love to see, even if it's a glimpse of him actually existing. I think it would be awesome. Please don't let me down. We're so
All
close.
right.
We got.
Well,
What's your next one though? I
I'm
took over on that.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna bring it back down to a little bit more Earth based, but kind of not kind of like planey. I won't say dimensional character, but I was. Then this may be controversial. I actually kind of enjoyed the movie that this character was in first when it was Sony, um, and that is Ghost Rider. I like. I don't know what it is about Nick Cage. I just came back to Nick Cage.
Was there
Like I
two?
do
Was there two
like.
movies?
Yeah, I think. I want to say there was two
I think there was
actually.
two.
Both by both by both by Sony, but this is a character again that they could kind of explore a little bit, not necessarily a specific one, because there are, the way the Ghost Rider works obviously is there are multiple Ghost Riders. And in fact, I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but the character that was in the Sony version, Johnny Blaze, was the son of another Ghost Rider and the sister or the brother of another one. There's uh, Barton, I guess, was his dad. And again, all these, or maybe it's his mom was a Ghost Rider. I think that's what it was. His mom was a Ghost Rider as well. And maybe this just runs in family lines. I'm not really sure,
You
but I
got Ghost
know,
Rider blood.
yeah. But eventually he sells his soul to quote unquote devil. It's actually one of the devils, many devils, Mephisto in this case, which is funny. Mephisto is a character in other video games and in other movies, and of course that's all taken from religious lore and whatnot, which I really enjoy, and maybe it's just me because I like horror movies, so the whole like intertwining of theology in movies and as well as comic books is fucking awesome to me. It's kind of why I like Thor, why I like you're gonna bring another one up, but like the Greek gods, the Roman gods, these bringing these theology tropes and characters in, especially this one. You know, Ghost Rider is cool to me. I like motorcycles. I like the idea of him getting powers to punish the evildoers. And they show in the old movie they show some of these powers off. The what is it? He's got the stare, the penance stare that he uses to show. Makes the seer or the bad guys see all of the bad deeds they've done and puts them in a catatonic state, basically. And he's got the whip and the motorcycle, all these cool things. I enjoy all of it. But you may ask yourself, why would it be on this list if he's already gotten a movie? And I hear you, but I put him in the same kind of category as kind of like Spider-Man before he got the Marvel, or the Green Lanterns, right? Like there's so much more to explore in that universe, and it's a big favorite of mine that I really wish they would do an actual good Ghost Rider movie and incorporate the Ghost Rider in with the other heroes. Uh, it, you know,
So building off what he's saying, because I think this is important, right? because it was kind of separated from the MCU, it's like they took the idea, but all the substance wasn't there, right? For those of you who don't know, in the Marvel universe, Ghost Rider is immensely powerful, right? I mean, he's not quite like Death, like Lady Death, but I mean, he is
Yeah.
immensely powerful. I mean, a lot of people would rank him really high up there, right? Well, you don't see that in the movies. He just looks like some dead guy that gets, inhabited by an evil, whatever, and now he's
Yeah.
this. So you don't get to see it. So I agree with Mantis. Seeing him in the MCU where you bring his powers to scale of what he can do and what he is, I think is doing that character justice. Because we did
Plus,
see him a little bit in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you've watched that series, he is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they kind of start to tiptoe towards it, but it is a TV show, so there's limits to what you're going to be able to do. I still liked him in that. I'm sorry, I do.
It's time to pay for your sins.
For everybody who doesn't like it, I thought even the actor who played him was great, but I thought they did a great job at kind of hinting at how powerful he really is. I like it.
I'm actually pissed off at myself. This is gonna. So I'm gonna finish what I was gonna say about.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Ghost Rider. No, you're good. You reminded me of something that's gonna piss me off because it has nothing to do with this video. But I'm gonna finish with what I was gonna say about Ghost Rider. I think a good part where they could introduce this, and I don't want to go all Avengery with it, but they could bring in what they or what they say is the Midnight Friends. Like he did have kind of like a mini group, but it's in the vein of Suicide Squad. They're anti-heroes, right? There's who you have Hellstorm, Werewolf by Night, Topaz, the Black Cat, Doctor Strange. Like all of these characters that have kind of been in that little Midnight Friends group. I like the idea of them being anti-heroes because he's kind of an anti-hero, right? Like he's the devil incarnate to judge the evildoers, But he still there's that human part of him that kind of still holds part that he does use his powers for good to help innocents and whatnot, not just to kill the bad guys. So I like that part. Being done with that, it reminded me of who I should have put on my list before for the DC top 5, and I can't believe I forgot about it because he's one of my favorite characters. He's been in a couple of series, and my phone's just blowing up. It's been in a couple of series, not too big, but in a few of them, particularly the Heroes of Tomorrow. But Constantine, and I'm not going to go into depth there because we're in a Marvel movie, but I don't know why this reminded me of Constantine. Maybe it's because of the whole devil thing going on. But I can't believe I didn't put Constantine in my top 5 because he's so good.
He's also been in a movie, and
he has.
Keanu Reeves did a great job on that.
I do. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
I fucking love that movie.
And he's also been in series.
Movie.
He even crossed into the Arrowverse. He also had his own series, but they were actually tied together with the Arrowverse. Great. Go watch it. But I get you because, when we talk about, like he was saying, Ghost Rider is basically death. People don't realize this, but Lucifer Morningstar is actually a DC property. So the show Lucifer is DC. Yeah. If you ever watched that, another amazing series. I love the show Lucifer. He's so great in there. Constantine comes into that, especially in the crossover and all that stuff.
Always a pleasure to see you, Lucy.
To receive and John Constantine.
Because Lucifer Morningstar is a DC property as far as character, whereas
go
Ghost Rider is more of the Lucifer Morningstar of Marvel.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a worthy tie-in. We'll let that slide. We're not going to go any more DC. But
we may have to do I might do a video on that.
Right, I have to do a follow-up. Things good. We forgot. Yeah. This is a problem when you're kind of doing things on the fly. Just hey, what's coming up?
I know.
Yeah. Now for my next one, I am excited to talk about this one because I grew up watching the X-Men cartoons. I absolutely love them. And when we talk about the Phoenix Force, and you have heard me say how Marvel fucking sucks at trying to create the Phoenix Force in live action, is Gladiator. Now, Gladiator is basically Superman of the Marvel world. I mean, it's exactly like it. Now, again, Superman was years and years and years before. That's why I say he's the Superman. But Gladiator was basically the ultimate defender to the Shi'ar Empire, whoever sits on the throne. The Shi'ar Empire, who they were the one that controlled the Mkron crystal that the Phoenix Force was trapped in. There's a whole huge story behind that. So there is a scene in the X-Men cartoon. The original one came out in like 93, 94, where at the time everybody thought Juggernaut was the baddest motherfucker. I mean, he's huge, super strong, and all this. Gladiator comes down because the Princess Shi'ar, she's been like they're trying to kidnap her, and Gladiator comes down, and Juggernaut is working with the team that's helping to try to beat the X-Men and keep so they could kidnap the princess. And Juggernaut punches him, and Gladiator doesn't move, right? And I'm going to show this scene. I can't do it. I'll do it in post, but I'm going to show the scene. But Gladiator doesn't even move. He grabs Juggernaut, and he throws him to another island. I mean, just yeets him out of the current time there.
For you? Uh-huh.
Because again, he's Superman, and when you see him, I mean, he's flying into Earth. He has super breath. He has heat vision. He is Superman. But he is one that I would love to see come into the Marvel, especially if we try to. Well, to say we, I'm not going to be a part of it. If you try to bring in the Phoenix Force for a third time, he would be one that I would love to see come into it because you want a Superman, right? There's your fucking Superman. Bring Gladiator in.
Yeah. I want to see something on that amount of lines because I know a lot of people say, Captain Marvel is the Superman of Marvel, and there's some. I mean, I guess there's some power wise. I don't see it. This is the way I see. It is Captain Marvel on Marvel's side and Superman on DC side. These are not equivalent. Do not make the mistake of saying these characters are equivalent because they're not.
Well, Brie Larson made that mistake because she said she was stronger than Superman in an interview.
Can Captain Marvel beat Superman? I can't believe you have to Google that. Duh.
Yeah, well, clearly, I don't think she could lift 50 pounds. Quite honestly.
And if you watch, so supposedly she put out some videos where she deadlift 225, and she brags about that. She's like, I could deadlift 225 pounds. I'm like, I'm not hating on her. I do hate her. Like, I hate the way what she's become. She went really woke feminist. I hate that. I used to like her, and I think like in 21 Jump Street, she did great. She was funny. I loved her character in that, and I'll give any woman that, she can deadlift 225 pounds for as small as she is.
Oh, I agree.
Great. I'm not hating on that. I don't like her attitude. And in that interview where she talks about deadlifting 225, she says she's stronger than Superman. Her bitchy attitude just shines so brighter than her character does in goddamn fucking Endgame, right? when she first comes in.
I'm gonna say, gym video where it didn't happen. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't believe it. I think she's lying. She can't be 100 pounds. I will say Brie Larson is very attractive. She's an attractive female. She's very attractive. I just don't understand why she's such a bitch. That's what.
And she used to not be. And that could be Hollywood corruption. I'm not going to say. I don't want to. I don't want to turn this video into that. We're going to move on. But
we could.
That's another video. We'll do that on another topic there. But I did like her before. All right. I just did with Glider. Who do you got? Because that was my 4th. So my 4. Who's number 5 for you?
Yeah. So my last one is Sentry. And I kind of struggled with this last one because there was one that I have on this list at the bottom. I told Cal about, but I went ahead and put Sentry in here just because I like the dual personas that can happen with this character. Basically, it's kind Sentry's like it's the Captain America, right? So he's created with a super soldier serum. Or a professor's secret formula. I'm gonna say it's basically the same fucking thing. It's funny. His name's Robert Reynolds. I don't know. It's just funny to me. I always want to say Burt Reynolds when I see that for some reason. But he becomes superhuman. He finds out after he throws a bully through a wall or whatever. Um, and the thing about him is he's got these, he's got a what he's got. He can fly. He kind of like Superman in the sense that he gains power from solar radiation. Um, but he has to balance this with his psychotic problems that causes him to become his alter persona, the Void, right? So he's got to balance these things out, which is kind of cool because it does lean to the anti-hero thing where he could just turn and become like Jekyll and Hyde-ish, right? Like he could become really bad really quick. But he has psionic powers. Um, you know, but I think for me, I like the fact that he has this inner demon that he has to wrestle with constantly to make sure he doesn't just go ape shit and blow somebody up, right? But I believe as the character, as far as the Marvel universe goes, he was involved with a Fantastic Four, as well as Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, X-Men. Like he's been through kind of with all of those characters. I think it does set up pretty well. Maybe not in the third phase of the MCU because a lot of those characters are they're not touching those characters now. But I still would like to see, Sentry be a part of it. Maybe his own movie type thing. Not has anything to do with the overall arcing story of the MCU. I'd be fine with that. Kind of like what Joker did on the DC side. But for me, the draw was that alter ego thing.
So where I think he'd benefit from, and Marvel they've seen some success with it, right? And I think that's why they would maybe lean into it, is like with Deadpool. Deadpool's an anti-hero. Even Logan in the actual Logan movie, I mean, he's killing people, he's hacking people up.
Yeah.
And it's been wildly successful for him, right? So do Sentry like you would Deadpool, right? Do his own standalone, and then if it's working, you can tie it into the MCU, like they're planning to tie in Deadpool 3 into the MCU. Because people are liking the anti-hero. It's kind of anti-Marvel. Marvel's really upbeat. Anti-hero is more of DC's kind of thing, until Deadpool came along. And then, obviously like with Logan. So I think maybe they'll try that, right? And that would be a good way to, if it bombs, it wasn't tied to the MCU. If it succeeds, next movie, bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, I really like they could go two ways with it. They could do, again, the Sentry side, or they could do the Void side, because there are parts in the comics that the Void, the alter ego, teams up with some big baddies. I'm pretty sure he joins the Green Goblin. And I think the Green Goblin. This is way out there, but the Green Goblin had he was part of the Bad Avengers. Like there's the Sinister Avengers or whatever they're called. Was a part of that as well. So I mean, was
that the Sinister Six?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Sinister Six. Okay, making sure I wasn't thinking DC.
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let us know in the comments if I'm off base on that. But there's plenty of places, like with all of these characters we've been talking about. There's plenty of directions they could go with them that's interesting, that people in the normal comic book arena and or just like moviegoer that happens to like comic book movies or superhero movies that would be introduced to these characters. Because, and I'm going to wrap it up with this because it's my last one. I will say these that we're making this list of, they bring that opportunity to introduce the viewer into characters that they don't know yet, right? Like that they have no idea about. And that's what bugs me the most about comic book movies, is they keep regurgitating the same characters before that they've always had. I want to see something new, and I'll go with a 6 here before you get into your last one, because I wanted to put Spawn on this list because I know you like Spawn too. I love Spawn as a character. I just the movie that they did with him was so for me, it's Spawn's not even the best part of the movie. It's literally John Leguizamo was the clown. Like, I wish that they could do it justice and make a good one. But I'll end it there. That's my top 5 with a little 6 in there. Who is your
because I could talk about Spawn like for another hour
I
because I'm
know.
like, oh god,
I
because
know.
go watch some of our other videos where we mentioned Spawn multiple times, how we'd like to see a new version of him come out. But
Yeah.
and
For
maybe
your
this
fifth
ties
and final.
into the fifth and final.
It
I want to
does.
see
It
Death,
does.
right? Lady Death. Okay, we've seen
Wait, wait,
Eternity.
wait. Oh, hold on. Is there only Lady? So you have Lady Death. There's not another Death though.
There's
There's
not another
like
Death.
just
So Lady Death is Death.
okay.
Now,
Okay.
the difference is with certain of these characters, Death, Eternity, and all them, when basically the multiverse is destroyed, we move into a new cosmos. Like I always said, we're in the seventh cosmos. I think.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Let me know down in the comments. I could be wrong. We may have just ventured into the eighth cosmos, but in like the other cosmos is basically where the multiverse ends. Now, the original universe, the one that started everything, that the first firmament stuff, that still exists, right? The Beyonders universe because they're outside the multiverse, but the cosmos is where basically the multiverse restarts. Lady Death and all of them are reborn, new essence basically. But basically, I
Mm.
mean, Lady Death is death. Again, this name kind of speaks for itself. It's not like death
It's
where
interesting.
we're not talking Lucifer, versus on the DC side where you have the presence who is God and then Lucifer who is the devil. She is death. She is a cosmic entity, kind of like you saw Eternity in Thor: Love and Thunder. Death presides
Mhm.
just like that.
I would just and you may know this answer, you may not. Why is it Lady Death? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying in most, if not all, like iterations of Death, it is a supposed male figure. Why is it Lady Death in this instance?
Now, I can't give you the specifics of why she's Lady Death. I can tell you that this occurred in the comics well before all this feminist everything uprising. It's not like they just changed this in the last 2 years
Mhm.
to fit an agenda. She's
It's been this way a
that
while,
I know
like
of. She's
since.
been with for decades, right? It's been Lady Death. Again, the whole Thanos going and getting the Infinity Stones, that was a couple decades ago with Infinity War. She was Lady Death. Again, he was trying to collect those stones for her to wipe out or
Okay,
have
okay.
a life. So she's been Lady Death. Now I could be wrong on that, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize, but from what I remember readings, now I haven't read the Infinity War saga in comics in a while, but she's been Lady Death in the comics for a long time.
I that's interesting to me, and I'm cool with it. I'm all for it. Like it's this nice little change up or whatever. And I say change up, it hasn't changed. That's just what it's always been. I say it's a change because normally you think as Death as a male figure, and in this case, it's always been a female figure from years and years ago.
Well,
And I'm
I
cool
like
with it.
that,
Like
right?
it's
Because you're not just trying to
yeah,
change to appease a group of people who don't even read comics, right? I mean, she's just been that
yeah.
way. That's how you do that kind of shit, right?
How is she involved in, like, how would you put her in a movie essentially, I guess?
You'd probably have to do something similar to Eternity, like where they're trying to get to, because there are certain aspects of you have Eternity, you have Death, you have these certain aspects that are basically when you bring them into a corporeal type of form, become like what you, even though technically Eternity
You would
wasn't in
think
a
it looked like.
corporeal form, but
Right.
there's so
So
it would,
would she be fighting like gods? Like is she fighting another
she's
uh,
always had others to do her bidding, right? Like again, Thanos, things like that.
so
You're talking
this would be
cosmic
more of
level
an
entities,
influential.
yes, that manipulate
Okay.
other powerful beings to do what they want, right?
Gotcha. So
So
this would probably you could wind her in a newer MCU movie as something pulling the strings on the back end that they find out she's actually doing all of this in a in behind the scenes where I think we talked about this before, where you don't actually see her except for little snippets here and there, and then maybe at the end you find out that that's her doing all of it, right?
like that's why Thanos, again in the comics, that's why he got the Infinity Stones. Like it was for it, and you just
Hmm.
see that flash, like he's coming to her and he's bowing to her, like I did what you asked, right? And you're like, oh, who
Right,
the
right,
fuck is that? And you never get a full picture. I don't know.
right.
I'd like to see it.
I can see. Yeah, I for sure. I think all of these characters are ones, especially that maybe not many people know. Galactus, Ghost Rider, probably know those, but everyone else, I'm assuming, probably doesn't know most of those characters. So, um,
So, and the hope for us doing this, reason why we step back from the reactions and things, because this is the content we want to bring out, is we want to get those viewers that maybe they're only you know experience they've had with these characters is through the MCU. So yeah, you saw a Statue of the Living Tribunal, but do you know how many people who, if you only watch the MCU, nobody would know who any of those statues were in either of those tombs in Thor: Love and Thunder or Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness? You wouldn't know who those people are, so you have no reason to get excited. You got nerds like us that are like, "Oh fuck, look at that," and other people are like, okay, great. There was a tomb of weird
what?
people. Like, who are these people, right?
Yeah,
So the goal of this,
yeah,
when we do these types of discussions, is I say educate, is to bring to light the stories behind these characters, to give them some life, to give them some depth, so you understand how awesome it would be to see them in a movie. So it's not like Eternals where everybody's like, dude, this just doesn't kind of make sense. Right, it's kind of bringing it into where it makes more sense. It's a little more palatable for people. That's my goal
that's
for
what
doing
kind of
this.
worries me. Yeah, that's what worries me is they may have tried doing that with the Eternals and realized that we're not good at it, so they're not going to do anything like what we're talking.
Which is so
I
sad.
still think there's room for it.
I want to see Erisham
I
come
know.
back. He was awesome.
I think they could. I mean, they could totally do it again. It's not Erickson in that movie. That's not why the movie was bad. Like, to, quite honestly, I think the acting was subpar in that movie, but also the writing was terrible. Like, it didn't have anything to do necessarily with the characters themselves. It just was produced bad. But I mean, I agree with you. Like, Erickson in that movie, I thought it was pretty good. I don't know how else you could have done it. I guess is what I'm saying. Like, how much better could have you done that in that movie?
Done
I
Erisham
just
or the
don't.
whole movie? Because I could have done the movie a lot
Airship,
better.
Airship, no,
Erisham,
no,
no.
Airship.
To me, everything he did, how he played it, because you know, most of your list is anti-heroes, right? A lot of people would view
Yeah,
the Celestials as anti-heroes, right? Because
right.
they justify killing a planet of 7 billion people for the birth of a new universe or a galaxy
Yeah,
in this point, that would have millions and billions and billions of people. They justify that. You have to have death to create new life. So people would see him
right.
as an anti-hero, even though he's really not. This is just their role in the universe, or the
Yeah.
multiverse, even because they transcend that. So I don't think I loved everything about Erisham coming in, the way they did the character explanations and stuff. It was great. I could have done without the other 2 hours of the movie, but it's just the shit with
I
Erisham
know.
and the Celestials. I
I
absolutely loved
know.
it. I thought they did great. Just I
Yeah,
don't like how they did the Eternals. We'll go into
yeah,
that at a different time again, because I can literally, we're already over 40 something minutes into this video. I could go into another
yeah.
hour about what was wrong with the Eternals. And it ties back into the whole Infinity War thing with Thanos. So we won't go into that. We'll do that on another video. If you have made it and you have listened to us go on and nerd out about all these characters and you're still here with us, we do appreciate it. Consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel so you can either hear us talk more about this or maybe learn for characters that you don't know. Let us
Or
know.
make us learn it, because again, there's things about this that I don't know. I mean, half through this, like he was telling me stuff about Gladiator and Death I had no idea about. So
And there are
you
things
know,
I still don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm not playing it like I've read every comic and watched. I've watched a lot of them. If it's in the '90s cartoons, I watched them all. But
I watched it. Yeah,
I may not have seen them for a long time, so it's things I don't know either. So let us know down in the comments as well. What 5? If you didn't agree with our 5, what 5 would you like to, or what one did we leave off the list that you would love to see come into the MCU? Okay, because on the previous one, it was all supposed to be one video. We didn't get it there. We asked you for the DC. Let us know in the Marvel universe, in the MCU, who do you want to see come into it? And you can't use Deadpool or Logan because they're coming in anyways. All right, so
yeah.
can't use
None of
those.
that.
All right. So for Mantis and I, again, I apologize. This video ran on, but we just love the topic so much. We can, and I say it every time, we can literally talk about it for so long. But I'm gonna wrap this up because I don't want to keep dragging it on and make this an hour and a half video for you guys. Mantis, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. This was good. Again, like Cal said, let us know in the comments if there is a specific character in the Marvel universe that you'd like to see on the screen brought out, as a live action, either in the movies or in the shows, and maybe we'll discuss it.
Until then, guys, we will catch you next time for, and we've alluded to it multiple times in this video, for the next video, our or I should say, our superhero characters or comic book characters becoming too OP for the big screen. We'll catch you then. Take it easy.
Later.